From the back of the group, Engus and Felim came, and Falkberg next to them and Egelfrith. All four rode out, looking down over the lower land of the Merse, for the Norse had been following the river. No sign, Engus told her. None. And Osrith went to look. They must be here, somewhere, she told the landscape in general. How could Ragnall have hidden thousands of men? There was nowhere, no hills or vales, nor here. Look, came Eswi's voice. Look, there. Behind them was Eadspirig, still visible in the further distance. Towards it, like a snake with shimmering scales, the line of Norse could be seen. Heading back towards the fortress. That was it, then, was it? Osrith thought, grimly. Very clever, to have planted groups of men as if asleep in the Northumbrian landscape waiting for their leader to come and waken them. And now they were heading back to the fortress they wanted to take, which was being guarded with even less of a defense than it had had with Sinlef. We go, called Osrith to them, all. We must help Aldhelm keep the fortress. And then there were no more commands, just the hurrying of hooves over tussocks of grass and rocks. Back to Eadspirig. We won't catch them, Elfrith called over to her, as they galloped down the slope of the ridge they had climbed. And he was right, for they were too far away. But sense, utter sense, had brought the Mersons from Cester to oppose them. And then, something else happened. The fighting body of Norse, and Irish, Osrith supposed, circumvented the fortress that she was so convinced they wanted. It could only be her brother who had manufactured this. Encouraged Ragnall that it would be a good idea to attack Cester. Because father always said it was a mistake to ever attack Cester. Now the curtain wall has been built and the palisade wall refortified. That had been her nephew, Father Oswald, who had told Osrith that the night before. She slowed back down. Are we not aiming to get to Eadspirig? Elfrith called over to her. We looked at Osrith too, also wanting the answer to that question. They are not going to Eadspirig, she told them, and turned and told the rest of her men, the realization falling to her. Of course, they are not going to Eadspirig, they are going to Cester. And they will not win there, whatever their plan is. Osrith inhaled, exhaling carefully, to steady her thoughts. We go to Cester, Osrith told them. After a minute, Aldhelm will have men holding Eadspirig. She looked at the fortified city at the beginning of the estuary. Cester, 88,888,888. So they saw the Norse in the mud and the chaos, slowly picking themselves up after the battle. And they saw the Norse return under Ragnall, catching half of the Mercian army ambling towards their city. It had taken them off their guard, but the Mercians, with their factional allies from Deheubarth to turn and fight the onslaught. The guard was tightened in the wall. Osrith watched as more warriors joy-eyed those already on watch, angling their spears in combat position. Blades, no doubt, not far from hand if Ragnall had intended a siege. Come on, Osrith told her men. We will join where we can, and fight the bastards. And fight they did, as Mersons peeled themselves off the ground, brishing away mud, looking for their companies, and Osrith's warriors, back from their brief foray into forbidden Northumbria, charged at the line, over the unsteady landscape of stone and mud, swords drawn. No men had she lost when the cry went up of victory, of Ragnall's men in retreat. Sinlef strode across the field, his 3 men dead by the river. He saw Osrith and bore down on her, angry that she seemed to have set him up. But he didn't make it. From their conversation where Finan had told Uhtred his appearance in the Slaver ship had been divine, from the south, where Silo, Hywel's general had been leading. All of them stopped. From the north bank of the river came a shout, and then a screech as if a bean sigh had come with the wretched Norse. It was Bryda. Bryda had come from Ireland, clearly, with Ragnar's men from Dunham, and added her number to Ragnall's. But she had not gone with Ragnall into Northumbria. Had she hidden, as subterfuge? Osrith looked, and wondered something else. Had she engineered the whole strategy? Who is that? We asked, pointing in Bryda's direction. Someone who hates my brother more than I do, Osrith told him in Gaelish. There was no getting past the fact that she had helped the woman escape and, despite her now being in the thick of the attack, under the circumstances she was being held, Osrith would do so again. To be so incarcerated by Lydok, the brother of Hywel, was inhuman. She glanced at Bryda again, who looked as if she had just been looking at Osrith. Her child would be a similar age to young Finan, about 4 years old. How she wished to ask the Danish woman that, and talk about motherhood for a moment. Osrith helped. All had gone well for Bryda, as all had gone well for Osrith. Who is she? Elfrith asked now, on behalf of the Mersons. Do you know her? I let her go from pitiful circumstances, once, Osrith replied, keeping Bryda in her sight, as she once gave me my liberty. And they watched, silently, as Bryda's army moved, holding the heads of the hostages by their hair, 24 or more, and gave the order to cut their throats. She cannot win, Elfrith told them. Cester is too well defended. He glanced back to the fortifications, as if proud of Alfred's bare conception, now made real. But Osrith was still looking directly at Bryda, and was watching what she did next. And what she saw was her nephew, staggering bloodily over the battlefield.